You get out of here. Turn back. If you found this video, one of three things happened. Either your family, hey Grayson, the YouTube algorithm is being weird, or you're a fitness enthusiast on the rabbit hole of a lifetime. But let me be clear. What I'm going to talk about today is putting chicken in a blender with water and using it as a primary food source. I'm serious. Get out of here. There's nothing here good for you. But for those of you that remain, this is the ultimate chicken shake guide. Now, if you search chicken shake on YouTube, you're going to find about 4 videos, and hopefully this one. The first you're going to find is a bodybuilder drinking chicken for a one-off shake as a way to keep weight off during a cut, but still hit his protein goals, and he's telling you to add citrus flavoring to it. Yuck, bad idea. You're going to find Derek Poundstone, if you're lucky, putting 3 chicken breasts in and then chugging what looks to be about 40 total ounces of liquid. It is absolutely legendary and disgusting. You're going to find Alex Bromley making a one-off shake for similar reasons, maintaining a cut, not gaining body weight, but still hitting protein targets. And then you're going to find the video with Blaine Sumner, where he explains his diet and somebody makes the shakes and tries them and says that they're not very good. It's important to watch these because these are actually different use cases for the chicken shake in each scenario. In 2 of them, you have athletes that cannot afford to gain body weight who are saying, I still need to hit my protein goals. I prefer to get them from a whole food source, so I'd rather drink chicken than spam whey protein. And that's probably a good idea, just gastrically. And then you have Derek Poundstone, who in every way was a different animal. But you should know that Derek frequently talked about having a variety of protein sources. And so he would spec heavily into chicken, and then it would be lamb, and then it would be soy, and then it would be whey. And he had a huge variety in his diet. And I get the sense that the chicken shake was not necessarily like a dietary staple, but something he'd pull out of the holster if he needed to catch up. The one that we need to focus on, though, is Blaine Sumner. And if you don't know who he is, you should. A multiple-time world record holder, someone at the very upper echelon of powerlifting, who maintained a super heavyweight frame while working a full-time job in an extremely demanding industry. And I'll say this for anybody here, to be a good candidate for a chicken shake diet, where the majority of your protein and actually the majority of your food volume and calories is coming from these shakes, I think you need to consider 3 things. 1, you probably are a big guy without a huge appetite. That's what's going to lead you here, because if you can chew through food, it's going to taste a lot better and you're going to hit your targets easier without the misery. Number 2, you need significant schedule constraints to make this make sense. And number 3, you have to have an iron stomach and an invincible psychology. What Blaine did is he had a total meal replacement protocol where he's on 8 shakes per day that fulfill both his protein and his carbohydrate needs. Spreading out the chicken shakes over 8 shakes means you have to have less chicken per shake, which means it's a little bit more palatable, but it also means you're locked in for 8 shakes per day. What I'm going to lay out here is something in the middle. I've aimed for about 75% of my daily protein from these shakes, and I want to knock it out before 2 p.m. So I do 4 shakes from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then I have my intra-workout protein, whatever that is, and then I have dinner together with my wife in the evening where we eat people food, and that's been pretty okay. And one of the reasons I try to tell people at the beginning of this video to turn back is because almost everybody can hit their daily protein needs eating normal food, right? The amount of people I know between 100 and 200 pounds that act as if getting between 1 and 200 grams of protein in the day is impossible. It's huge. I mean, it's one of these things where I tell people it seems impossible until you do it once, and then it's obvious. You take your total protein need and start at a gram per pound of body weight. There's people out there that say it's 0.7, and people that say even less because carbs are protein sparing, and that's a huge fat guy coat, by the way. It's a way for us to eat a third of the protein we need and say, as long as I have enough ice cream and cereal, I'm going to be okay on my protein needs. It's nonsense. Take your body weight, 1 gram of that per day, divide that by the amount of meals you're willing to eat per day consistently, and that's your target. and you can use things like a shake to catch up in there. And maybe you only spread out your total protein across 80% of your protein need across those regular meals, and you throw in a glass of milk. These things are possible. Where it gets sketchy is if you're in my camp, where I'm a 300-pound amateur strongman, and I would like to continue to grow. I have significant schedule constraints, frequently working between 60 and 80 hours a week. And so the idea of I'm just going to have a big meal prep Sunday, get my whole week ready at 6 meals per day, you're looking at more storage space than I have for food and more time than I am practically willing to spend on meal prep. The beauty of the chicken shake diet for me is, one, I'm hitting almost all the protein I need before 2 p.m. And two, if you add up all the time it takes to cook it and do those dishes, prep each individual container, prep each shake, and do those dishes, and drinking the shake, my average time per shake is under 4 minutes. It's given me the time back in my schedule to do what I need to do. Another fringe side benefit of having the proper amount of protein in from a whole food source, I think, is that when I'm on the chicken shake diet, I generally don't drink coffee or need caffeine of any kind. I feel my mental presence much better. I'm sharper at work and all that stuff, because your brain needs the amino acids too. So with all that said, you're a big guy without a big appetite. You have significant schedule constraints. You're willing to drink anything and you don't mind the taste. Let's get to work, and let me show you what I've learned about how to make this work and be a sustainable strategy for months and months and months. I'm one of these guys now. So I've got about 5.5 pounds of chicken here, and I want you to set aside about 45 minutes worth of time to do your main meal prep. And this is going to give me somewhere between 2 and 3 days worth of shakes. I want you to boil your chicken. I don't want you to bake it, grill it, put it in the Instant Pot, anything. Why? Because all of those things impart flavor, and flavor is the enemy, because flavor tells your brain this is chicken. And if your brain figures out that you're drinking chicken, you're going to throw up in the sink. So I want you to boil it without salt, oil, or anything. So I'm just going to take these, put them in my pot. It is chicken, so wash your hands before you touch anything. I'm just going to cover these with cold water. And just cover them. We don't need boiling to take any longer than it already will. Put this here. We're going to put this on max heat. Cover it. And once it reaches a boil, we're going to let it boil for about 15 to 18 minutes. And we're going to check the temperature. I want you to overcook the chicken in the interest of making it tasteless. Run it up to about 170 degrees internal. And then once it shreds, it's going to have the consistency of chalk. That's what we're going for. No flavor, no textural differences, as chalky as possible. And then we're going to chill it after we shred it, because that's what makes it very blendable. So it's been boiling for a few minutes now. Kind of a set it and forget it sort of thing, because again, don't care if it's overcooked. In fact, I kind of prefer if it's overcooked. So I'll stick that in. We'll check it together. 160. Oh, getting up towards 180. That's fine. Now, as for shredding this stuff, you can use anything. I'm going to be using a KitchenAid because I have the tool and I'm going to use the tool. If you've got a cutting board, a knife, or a couple of forks and a bowl, that works about just as well. The idea is we want to shred it to make it easier to portion out and weigh. But if you're confident in your blender, you don't even have to shred it. So here's the workflow that I'm going to use. You're going to want a $15 food scale to take care of this. And now we're talking about portioning stuff out. I want you to take 75% of your protein needs, divide it by 4, because that's the amount of shakes that I'm going to have, and then start shredding it. So here's what that looks like. So be forewarned, the KitchenAid may sling chicken everywhere. And if you don't do a very good job cleaning, you might have an unhappy spouse, which is okay. I'm just going to break this up slightly. It's nice and tender, though not juicy. I mean, we boiled all the fat off this stuff. Shouldn't be much flavor left in it. I'm going to lock that, set it on low, and then we'll see how long it takes some of those bigger chunks to get broken up. So remember we talked about chalky? This is the consistency that you want. If you shred it just a little bit, you get something nice that pulls apart. Maybe you like that as for like a chicken sandwich. This is what we want. We want to go past that point. And so having done the math and figuring about 8 grams of protein per ounce of boiled chicken breast, each of my 4 shakes needs 7 ounces of chicken. 7.3. I'd rather be just under than just over for blending purposes. Now let's talk about the carb needs in the shakes. Previously, when I would do this, I would do 10 ounces of chicken and an egg and some spinach, as we'll show later, but I wouldn't do any carbs in the shakes. And so this actually puts you in a pretty hypocaloric state, which is fine. I don't mind losing weight as long as I'm hitting my protein targets. I'm actually losing weight right now, which is needed. The problem with having a extremely low carb main diet, though, there's a couple of things. Number one, your energy is going to be lower in the gym. Where I was doing 4 sets of 8 with a given weight, I would only do 1, and then I'd be pumped to the max, and I'd have to stop. The other downside of that is that you stay full for less time, and so I go through the first part of the day, do a good job with my shakes, but the sugar cravings and everything else later in the day, I'd end up counteracting all the good, diet work I was doing earlier. So I think the shakes need a carb. Now we have a texture problem, right? If you can use white rice, you can use potatoes. Those things make it very thick. If you're willing to increase the liquid volume per shake and that doesn't impose a nausea restriction, then you should probably do that. I'm capped out at about 24 ounces per shake is what I can tolerate. So the carb source I have chosen is to each of these I'm going to add 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of oats. And that keeps me full for long enough that I'm not really craving a bunch of carbs or sugar throughout the day. And so I get my 4 shakes by 2 o'clock. I still don't have quite enough carbs by the time I get to the gym, so I have an intra-workout shake. And that can be a separate thing with high branch cyclic dextrin, EAAs, and a couple other things that help me get the carbs when I need them without spiking blood sugar. And I'll say too that if you want to do a low to zero carb version of the shake just because it's easier, that's fine, but I want you to be mindful of where you're getting it. So here's a couple things I've tried. I used to also cook a pan of cornbread along with the chicken shake prep, and I'd have a slice of cornbread in between shakes. That was my carb source. I had to do away with that because I couldn't reliably commit to that meal prep time as well, even though I liked the way that the cornbread made me feel. So I ended up in a place where I was having low carb shake, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then before the gym, I'd have this massive bowl of sugary cereal. And then 90 minutes later, I go into the gym, I feel awesome, and I perform. Here's the problem. You can probably tell diabetes runs in the family, and it's not a non-zero risk for me. So working with my doctor over the past 1.5 years, said, hey, why don't we get that A1C down? And I have. I'm doing much, much better across all those traditional markers of health and blood pressure and those things, so I want to keep it down. So we're going to do oats, and then we're going to have a kind of a mindful intra-workout shake. And then for dinner, I've already basically hit my targets. I can have something small, and my wife and I usually have a similar portion for that, and it's working out well. So I'm going to add oats to this and just rinse and repeat, and we're going to make a lot of these containers. I'm going to nitpick here for a second. You ever notice that in meal prep containers where you have 2 different size pockets here, I have 1 cup and 2 cups, and all the marketing material, they show protein in the small cup and carbs in the big cup. And I don't know about you guys, it bugs the crud out of me whenever I go to like a high protein, healthy place and they end up like filling 75% of the plate with the cheapest stuff they have, which is, white rice or whatever the carb source is. And you're getting like 6 nuggets of chicken in there. So I like to reverse that. I've got all of my protein in the big cup, a little bit of carbs over here. That helps me feel good throughout the day. I'm going to zero this out and keep going and just build these up. Here's something I found after doing this for a little while. Just because it's processed chicken breast doesn't mean that the machines they use to do so are actually getting all the bones out. Just check. You don't want to try to drink that. I've just gotten 2 days worth of high protein meals done. And if you're a rational person, there's something in your brain telling you, wait a second, I don't need to make a shake out of this. I just add some sugar-free barbecue sauce to my chicken, replace the oats with white rice, throw it in the microwave when I need to eat, and that's fine. You should do that. I'm going to give you a lot of off-ramps today because, yeah, I think that is the better option. But if you're still in it for the shakes, let's talk about the next step. I've talked about the need to chill these because I think that's the right call and it makes them easier to blend. You also don't want to drink hot chicken shake because then it has the temperature and consistency and flavor of vomit. Not a good thing. And actually have a chilled prep shake ready to go. Let me put these away and then I'll talk about how we prep individual shakes and the blender selection and all that good stuff. So we're here and it's time. You have not been deterred. You won't be talked out of this. You're going to make a chicken shake. Let's talk about the blender. This is a refurbished Vitamix that cost me about $350. This is not the first blender I started doing the shakes with. I started with a Magic Bullet, and then I moved on to a Ninja blender, and I broke both of them using the shakes. The Magic Bullet just doesn't have the horsepower to actually cut up rubber chicken. You're just drinking chunks of chicken at that point, and you also, the attachments don't have enough liquid volume capacity to really get a meaningful amount of chicken blended anyway. The Ninja worked really well, but the problem is I was getting chicken pulp stuck down in the bearings where I couldn't reach with regular cleaning. So I replaced bearings twice on it because the smell coming from that thing after a while was just disruptive to the household. So that's a bad deal. So we got this, and I actually choked out the Vitamix on it too because I got the ratios wrong. I actually reached out to Blaine Sumner about this, and he answered my question. I said, hey, I like the chicken shakes. I've been breaking blenders. What blender do you use? And he gave me a glorious one-word answer when he said, Blendtec. And here's the prices for those if you want to go get one of them. The refurbished Vitamix has been a good option for me because I only make one shake at a time. This is where people go off the rails because obviously you should blend up 3 or 4 shakes at a time. That makes things faster. No. There's a couple of reasons. Number one, you're always going to get foam, right? You blend this at a high enough speed to actually liquefy the chicken, you're going to end up with a foam layer on top. And in large batches, that means an entire shake is nothing but foam. Foam is the enemy for a couple reasons. Number one, it changes the protein content. You might say whatever, it nets out at the end of the week. You're right. The bigger thing is if you chug something with a lot of air in it, you're going to need to burp. And if you chug a normal beverage and burp, that's fine. Everybody laughs. If you chug chicken and then burp, you're going to throw up on your shoes. Ask me how I know. We don't want foam. You might also say, well, why don't you just stand here and meal prep and actually make your shakes and put them in jars? That's what I do if I'm traveling. If I've got a few days on the road, I know I'm going to need several shakes. I end up prepping a bunch of mason jars, and they're about the right size, and I just chug it cold because we want it cold anyway. Very, very easy for travel. I try to keep the chicken dry until I need it at home, though, because the dry meal prep just lasts for longer. So you asked for it. Here's what we're going to do. I've got my prepped chicken here. Oats in first. I just don't want to spill this everywhere, so I'm being a little bit extra cautious. Got that nice, chalky, dry, flavorless chicken. I'm not going to pack it. I'm actually going to fluff it a little bit. And that's going to put us somewhere between 18 and 20 ounces on the Vitamix marker. I'm going to add a singular egg. I'm doing this because it's a good fat source, and you might say, listen, raw eggs are not as bioavailable. That is correct. I'm only counting 4 or 5 grams of protein instead of the 7 or 8 that egg should be giving me. Now, very important, do not skip spinach. Why spinach? Well, other than being a meaningful source of fiber and iron and all this other stuff, that's not why I'm adding it. I'm adding spinach because it changes the color, and I want to drink something green. Why does that matter? Because without the spinach, go watch Derek Poundstone's video again. You haven't done your homework. Without the spinach, you end up with a gray-pink slurry, and your brain won't let you drink it. So we're going to have spinach. Next, we're going to add cold water, and I'm just going to barely cover the chicken because I'm going to blend it well, and less total volume means less misery whenever I'm chugging. And we're trying to get under 24 total ounces whenever we go over to the sink to drink this. Lid on, blender on. Now, I'm going to try and blend this in a way that throws the least amount of chicken onto the roof of it, because I'm not rinsing this with water and then chugging it over at the sink. You get what you get once I pour it into the cup. So I'm going to mix it on a low setting until it starts sounding homogeneous. I'm not going to push it past 7 because we don't want to beat too much foam into it, and that should give me the consistency that's drinkable. It'll buck at you for a little while. Then I'm going to let it go on low until that color starts to change a little bit green. That's it right there. Straight to 7. Now it's not bucking at me anymore. That means most of that's actually getting folded in. Back down low. I'm watching and listening for any inconsistencies, because you do not want to come across a big chunk whenever you do this. That's done. That is the shake. Chicken shake. Dickie's cup. 1 paper towel. Rinse out the lid. First, do not inhale through your nose up to this point. Set that aside. I'm going to leave that running because I'm going to need to wash my face and my mustache after I drink this. Pour it in. And look at that. Almost like I've done this before. Right up to the top. You cannot drink this at linear speed. What I mean is, if you start this fast and finish this fast, it's going all over your shirt. You want a wide mouth container, like a mason jar or a big cup, because they're easier to clean. But that also increases your spill risk out the side of your mouth. So I want you to fix the lower part of your mouth to this, and then suck it up. Get it down without lowering the cup, because if you lower the cup and get a breath in on top, you most likely will not be able to finish the shake due to nausea. Straight to the rinsing and cleaning of the blender. Now, we have tools, we're going to use them. I want to make sure I got the underside of the blades nice and clean, so I'm going to fill this about 1/3 full of water, maybe 1/4 full of water with hot soapy water, and then I'm going to put it back on the blender and run it with soapy water in it. That's going to get us the first pass of clean. And because I use this 4 times a day, I always hand wash the blender, just because even if I had a dishwasher here, and I do not, it would not be worth trying to actually time the cycles to be able to get at this every 2 hours. So this is what we're going to do. To some of y'all's horror, no, it's not just a chicken blender. I mean, we use this for all sorts of things, and there is no taste or residue or anything. This is just fine. As long as you clean it right then and there, you're going to be okay. And that's really it. And then I'd wait 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I'd have another one until I hit my 4 shakes, and then we're good for the day. What I just showed you is really the reason. It's going to come back to the time savings. It's going to come back to the fact that I didn't have to sit down and spend 20 to 30 minutes chewing through 7 ounces of chicken 4 times a day, because I don't have the time. But that's it. And you make them the way I make them. You follow the steps I showed you. You're going to be okay. You might need to be moving a little bit afterwards, but trust me, I've tried all the stuff. People talked about adding olive oil. That does nothing but stain your shirt, because the best men I know always dribble sometimes. There's always somebody in the comments on these videos saying, well, if you just add some salt and tomato paste, you actually have the base of a nice soup. Blech. I already told you flavor's the enemy. Either you're going to listen to me or you aren't. And then find something like your Dickie's cup or mason jar, something wide mouth, easy to clean, that roughly approximates the amount of liquid you can have, and then go to town. Because what this is, what the chicken shake is at its core, is brute force problem solving. Problem: I don't know how to get all my protein no matter how hard I try. Solution: I'm going to throw all my macros in a blender and freaking drink it. I mean, it's beautiful and elegant in that way, but it gets it off your plate so you can go worry about other stuff. So that's what I'm going to go do. I got a lot of other stuff to worry about. You guys take care. Share this video with somebody if you like. And thank you so much for watching.